momentous day in my personal history. I think it's the 14th of November 2023, and I finally am approaching Spion Kop. This is a destination I had tried to make in the year 2000, but figured it was all too hard. I remember in my enthusiasm for the Battle of Spion Kop writing a few letters to people and telling them all about this battle, this momentous battle. So soon, within I'd say half an hour, I will be on top of Spion Kop. Stay tuned. We're on the other side of Spion Kop, but Liz just pointed out the scenery along here, and I thought it's worth to capture this. So on the other side of Conical Hill is Louis Boer's headquarters, and for one of the few times we know of, the Boers used heliograph to communicate, normally the British. This magnificent vista is a big game reserve. Apparently there's a lot of rhino down there, and to the left is the dammed up Tugela. So Boer had to cross the Tugela. We'll find out more about that. Isn't that a magnificent view of Natal? Here we are on top of Spion Kop. Liz has recognised some people, the tour guide. They're all sitting in their dressing gowns.
Right, let's just get our bearings again. We're on top of Spion Kop. Buller. He was in the Colenso area, so you had the Battle of Colenso the 15th of December, then Christmas came, and in January, from the January the 10th, he made his way coming towards Spion Kop, okay? Because in this area, he had to cross the Tugela River in order to get to Ladysmith, and in this area were two drifts where it was possible to get across the river. That was the big problem in the relief of Ladysmith, was crossing the Tugela River. It is the rainy season and the river is high. So you had two fords or drifts in this area. Was Trickard's Drift, which was the narrowest part of the now dam down there, and Porgita's Drift, which is out of sight, which is another place that he could cross over in order to get to Spion Kop. So we're looking at there then in January, where he made his way across here, and he made his headquarters on Mount Alice, which we will view better as we walk around. And he sent Warren, second in command, across the river at Trickard's Drift, and he made his headquarters, as it were, based down here at Three Tree Hill, down the bottom there where that sort of water is, you see. So you can see that they're very long way from each other, and communication would have been a problem. So comes around about the 21st, 22nd of January. The attempt was to, from Warren's perspective then, to get to Ladysmith, and he would attack. There was the battles of Ntabanyana, which I mentioned earlier, where the Boers were up the top here, and in these prior battles then, over a couple of days, the British were unsuccessful here, and they were pushed back down the hill. Warren had actually wanted to go through between this hill and Spion Kop to get to Ladysmith, and that was now out of the question. So now what are they going to do? This is unsuccessful. What are they going to do? So it's a last-minute decision then at that point in time to take Spion Kop. So on the night of the 23rd of January, it was 1,700 soldiers left this area down here, mainly the Lancashire regiments, bearing in mind it was their first engagement in the Boer War. They'd just come out from England, and from here then they set out that in the evening of the 23rd of January around the bottom here to make their way up on top of the hill to get up to Spion Kop. It was a tremendous walk up, and we'll walk around and I'll show you the way that they came up the hill that night. Okay, so we're looking, it's a little bit in mist, but Tabanyana was a no-no, and thereafter then up they came. So let's walk around now, around the battlefield. You're all right there.
When they had fire, they would drop and wait for it to stop and use it.
The authorities are getting a bit frustrated with Buller. They're saying, what's taking you so long? Why haven't you done this?
They did get frustrated with him because I think what happened after the Battle of Colenso, we're not doing this in the right sequence actually, because Colenso came first, but after the Battle of Colenso, which was a total disaster, I think Buller at that battle site just behind the guns, where the guns were, he was hit by a fragment of shell, and he was winded, and I think, you know, he sent a message off to White in Ladysmith to let Ladysmith go. I mean, I think he was in shock. So from thereafter, he was indecisive, and he blamed everybody else. Yeah, so that's what happened. And if you read the book The Road to Infamy, it mentions this. And after the Boer War, they wanted to have an inquiry into what went on here at Spion Kop, because he seemed to be passing the buck, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't want to make the decision in case it was the wrong one, and take, yeah.
Sure.
So I think at the last minute, it was a decision to go up here. Warren, yeah,
right,
suggested it.
Okay.
Oh.
What was that famous book? Thank God We Kept the Flag Flying. Is it
by Kenneth?
Is that Ladysmith?
Was it? Thank God we kept the flag flying. Yeah. Yeah, so,
I wonder what this cable's fall is. What's that for?
They had a self-guided trail. The booklet was designed by Gilbert Tugela, and in the early days before the development of the battlefield route and tour guides, people could
follow the cable.
Follow the cable.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, follow the cable. But now they follow the tour guide.
I think we'll do our ceremony here, kissing of the Spion Kop.
I think, yeah, because this is where they came up.
Yeah,
okay,
great.
so this is where you want it. This was the
below
here is
if you can
well,
hold, if you can
not
hold,
quite. Yeah.
If you could hold that. You just
So,
need to point it at me.
Oh gosh, no, I don't know if I've got it.
You don't have to focus it. You just got to point it at me, right? Banquet, is that a word? A panoramic banquet. And I like that. Wow. And now I'm remembering that is being dammed up, that Tugela. It wasn't that wide when they were looking for that drift across to get to the relief of Ladysmith. It was this engagement that probably sort of ended Buller's military career. After this, he was never himself again, and he kind of, well, we saw in those episodes when we were up in Pamalanga how he ended his career. Oh my goodness, look at this. My fear of heights. I'm going to go down the list. Wow, look at this.
So the British came from the bottom that evening of the 23rd, 1700. They walked to the bottom of this ridge here. Do you see?
Jesus.
Right, and there this is the way they came up Spion Kop. Do you see there? 1, 2, 3 up there.
Jesus.
I did it during the centenary. It's very steep at the end, and Churchill mentions it because he was up here midday. How steep it is, it's very difficult. You've got to sort of crawl up the rocks and then get on top of the hill. So you can imagine this, doing this at night with your pack and just a pint of water
Jesus.
or whatever, and thinking about you going into battle. You know, you're coming up here at night, you get up here, you're on top of the hill. In the night, they line up once they get on top of the hill. They fix bayonets and they charge up towards, it's in the night, up towards that pine tree there. So just get the idea, this is the route.
I had no idea it was that steep. That is
It
terrifying.
was impossible. And can you imagine getting the wounded off?
When did you crawl up it?
I crawled up during the centenary in 2000.
Jesus,
I went
you must
up.
have been fit.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I used to hike in the Drakensberg a lot. Yeah.
Jesus.
Fairly fit, yeah.
Once again, the Tugela was never that wide back then.
No. It's been dammed up. It's now no, it wasn't wide. There were 2 drifts, as I mentioned earlier on, and Warren came across the narrowest part. There was where Trickard's drift was. He could get across and make his headquarters there, down there where the you see where the pond, the water is. That's where Warren was based. There throughout the battle, he was there. He never came on the hill.
The men that came up, the Lancastrians.
They were, from Lancashire, the Lancashire Regiment, South Lancs, Lancashire Fusiliers, some of Thornycroft's mounted infantry, some engineers.
Yeah.
And Woodgate was the man in charge here.
And
Woodgate came up.
Buller is over there, Mount Alice, is he?
No. Mount Alice is right around this side.
Oh, okay.
He's over there. We can see it from that angle.
Sure.
Buller is there. Warren is here. Communication is a nightmare.
Yeah. Okay.
Depending on heliograph, which was possible, only when the sun was shining. And the early morning was misty, yeah.
So we had that magnificent panoramic view, and this is why the cable's here, so you can follow step by step the whole picture of what happened at the Battle of Spion Kop. So we saw where the Lancastrians came crawling up on their hands and knees. Liz, they came up late afternoon, was it?
No. They came in the night.
In the night?
They came in the night. They left 3 Warren's headquarters, say 7 in the evening.
Yep.
They arrived on top of the hill here after midnight. So in the night, they did a charge up here. And in the early hours of the morning, they tried to dig in.
Lots of sort of pock holes in these rocks where the water gathers. I'm rather thirsty from that breakfast at Buller's Rest. Oh, here's a white rock that signifies something.
This is where they started at the bottom, and this is where they arrived in the early hours of the morning. They lined up in rows and they fixed bayonets and they charged in the dark. Well, you can see this.
Yeah.
Now, up until that evening, or that the day before, the Boers had not had anybody on Spion Kop. If you recall, they were the other side. But that particular evening, apparently, there were a few up here. Now, where we parked the car, they were in that area, thinking about putting a gun emplacement or something up here. They had put out a sentry on outlook. You see where that white, where there's it under the tree?
Yeah.
And he was based there. And that night he heard the British coming, and he shouted, "Run, burghers, run." Okay, so the few Boers that were on the hill disappeared down the other side, and as the British went up the hill, I think his name was a Lancashire guy, Captain Audrey, stabbed this guy and killed him. And the British then proceeded forward and tried to dig in. They found the ground extremely difficult to dig trenches here, so they built up walling around because of the difficulty. So, and in the early morning, then I'll explain that as we go forward beyond that monument there where the main action took place. But from here, the way up, you can also see Mount Alice. Now, if you just, Spion Kop Lodge is down there. Do you see buildings down there? You see the road go left?
Oh yeah, you can see a red
in
roof.
In that area there.
Okay.
And if you take a road back from there, you will see that vicinity is Mount Alice, and that is where Buller stayed from the time he arrived in this area. He stayed on that hill, so he's very far away from his second in command.
Ladysmith's there?
No, we will see it.
Okay.
It's further round.
Can I go and see where they crawled up a bit? Can I go and see
them? Let's go down there then.
Okay. Because we might get a better idea of the angle of crawl. I suppose they didn't have spades with them to dig in.
They had spades, but they left some of the entrenching tools.
That's a word.
Engineers had left some behind, so they didn't have everything. Possibly a pick. I don't know what they would have carried, but they didn't have all of the.
They might have dug with their bayonets.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I came up here during the centenary. That's a while ago, mind you.
Yeah. First of all, they'd be thinking, where is the summit? And all the kit they're carrying. Then finally, they seem to have reached the top of Spion Kop, or at least a summit or a plateau, and they can start moving forward and engage those Boers. But it's now, well, we don't know whether the moon was out.
But it's that part below the trees that is also very steep to come up.
Yeah, right. What time do you think they got here?
Here?
Yeah.
Well, they got here just after midnight.
Okay, so it's about a
They came up in the dark, made it even more difficult.
It's about a 4-hour crawl.
They left 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, yeah.
I don't know how much closer I can get. We'll go up to that line of rocks. I'm regretting wearing the dressing gown now because it's quite warm. There's a bit of gravel. I don't know where that came from. So 4 hours to get up. And you've got to be quiet. You can't sort of chit-chat and call out to your friend, how you doing? Okay, you know, we're not going to see. There's actually sort of a valley. Okay. All right, yeah, this is a good view actually. So the really steep bit gives way to that valley there, where they could have then walked. It'd still be steep, but they can then walk up here. There's a bit of like a valley.
Arrived in the country, can you imagine this is what they're exposed to start before they even go into battle?
Yeah. Oh, it's unimaginable, you know, but that's what you sign up in the army for, adventure.
Oh yeah, adventure. Well, yes. You get more than you bargained for.
Yeah. So we swung around, sort of the angle the Lancashires may have come up. And in my eagerness to see the route they took, we now have to scale the same heights they did. And Liz seems eminently more fit than me. Okay. But you can imagine running across this at night with all these rocks. Heart racing. And this, as we're walking, snakeskin. Pays to keep your eyes open. We're approaching the Boer sentry post, I think. This is where the alarm was raised. The gig was up to the Lancashires.
This is the unfortunate Boer sentry that was killed on the spot.
We don't know his name.
No, which I find extraordinary that
Yeah.
they didn't know his name, because there were so few up there, Boers up here that night, that surely they must have known.
So, what's the word run in Afrikaans?
Run, skitter? No, run.
We'll have to look it up, I think.
Run.
We need to call out for the burgers to run.
Oh, run, burgers, run, yeah.
Let's have a look.
Spiel, no, spiel is play.
That's it. Hardloop burgers, hardloop British, hardloop kakies.